building and starting up, they're like, embrace that and enjoy it. Even though it sucks and it's hard, there's lots more rejection. Go enjoy it, because once it's gone, it doesn't come back. To the being outside and hunting, the biggest lesson is how to disconnect from what our busy city lives are and get to a quiet space. Wealth is not monetary to me. Wealth is you're healthy. You're wealthy in your health. You're wealthy with your family relationships. You're wealthy with your friends. You're wealthy with your business associates and stuff.
Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long-Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa. Today, we have financial broker and co-host of the outdoor television show Backwoods Backstage on the Sportsman Channel. He is a diehard hockey fan, hunter, fisher, conservationist, and traveler, Matthew Germain. We will discuss the importance of networking and building a good contact list, outdoor lifestyle and travel, how good and bad events cultivate self-growth. Everyone, welcome. All right, Matthew Germain, everyone. Welcome to the Long-Term Podcast, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's quite the setup you got set up.
Yeah, thank you, bro. It's still in the works, but you know, sooner or later, we'll have the finished product. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Matthew Germain. I'm 24 years old. I guess split being raised between Bonnyville, Alberta, and here in Sherwood Park and Edmonton, I guess. And I work in finance, have for the last 4 years. I co-host the show Backwoods Backstage on the Sportsman's Channel. And I don't know, when I'm not doing any of that, I'm mostly at every single Oiler game. Diehard hockey fan.
Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about the Backwoods stage?
Backwoods Backstage was a COVID project that I was fortunate enough to be at the right place at the right time. I mean, you know how it goes. Sometimes you have a couple drinks and you're sitting around the poker table at 2 a.m. and you start solving all the world's problems. And at that time, we were mid-lockdown. I was sitting at my parents' place, and myself, my cousin Brett, a good friend of ours, Jordan Walsh, and my dad were sitting there. And we decided that for the last 2 weeks on lockdown, we've been fishing every day. We thought, why not have a camera crew follow us around? And we did, and we pitched it to the Sportsman's Network, and they actually liked it, which is beyond me. And that was supposed to be a 1-year thing, and here we are 4 years later filming our 5th season, and we really have no plans on stopping it.
That's awesome. 4 years, eh?
Yeah, it's quick. Time flies, dude.
Is that a weekly episode that gets released?
Yeah, we air quarter 2, 3, and 4, so like 39 out of the 52 weeks, and that always airs from, call it April 1st right to January 1st.
And what's the premise of the show? Is it just you guys hunting and?
Yeah, hunting, fishing, outdoor living. It's kind of where I get to put on my redneck hat. Or instead of wearing a suit every day to work or whatnot, I can throw in some camo and some plaid and pretend I'm an outdoors guy. But the reality is we're just 4 regular dudes who go out and have fun. And I don't know, at least try to bring some awareness to the conservation of hunting and fishing, and really showing that it's especially during COVID when we started it, a good chance to get outside instead of being cooped up in your house for however many months on end it was, or years. It's like, you have the beautiful country in Alberta, and then the province of Alberta that we live in. Why not take advantage of it a little bit and spend some time outside?
What do you get out of hunting and living the outdoor life?
Well, you know what? There's a handful of things that to get out of it. I mean, for me, it's a place to slow down is the biggest one, right? Because it's work so busy, and it's meetings, and it's phone calls, and it's prospecting, and it's 24/7, 365. But when you're in the middle of the bush without a cell phone and no cell service, it's a pretty quiet place to kind of, I call it R&R, like a rest and recharge, and a good break from the hustle of the real life that we all live.
Yeah, man, something about nature, hey, it's just so rejuvenating. Times when I'm out there and I see the trees, I'm looking up, and weather is great, and even if the weather's not great, as long as I prepared, and as long as I have the jackets and I've got the good rain pants, nature seems to just alleviate the stress that comes, and you come out of the trip and you feel so rejuvenated.
Oh yeah.
So I'm starting the show and going about starting all these projects. You call yourself an entrepreneur, hey?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, by definition, yes, but I wouldn't say there's a lot of failure mixed into the
still,
two things that have succeeded.
That's what is a part of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Is failures with anything, really. But especially when you're an entrepreneur, you try certain projects, it doesn't work out, and then you try it again in a different angle, doesn't work out. Eventually you try it and it does work out, but then that opens up all these responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then so on and so on. The importance of network and building a good contact list. What strategies have you found most effective for building and maintaining strong professional relationships in your career?
Well, I mean, that's just it. It's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. That's what I found out. And like coming out of high school, there's a couple different options. It was number one, go into the trades. But for those of you that know me, that have met me before, I'm too much of a wuss to work outside in -30. That's a fact. And I realized that when I was pretty young. I could go to post-secondary, but then my mindset kind of growing up was I read a lot of business books and personal growth books as I was growing up in my very impressionable years. And it was, do I want to go to school and get a business degree and be taught by a professor who's never actually ran a business, right? It's like if I wanted to learn how to do business, I would like to get into the field or start something of my own and then learn from people that are making millions of dollars a year in my field. Guys that have been through the trenches and got the rejection, got the no's, kind of built it themselves, so that way they could kind of tell me, don't take door number 1 or 2, take door number 3, because I took 1 and 2 and it didn't work. That sort of thing. So again, going back to the contacts, it's going out, leaving a good impression with people, and always getting a number in your phone. It's because you never know when that person is going to be of value to you, or when they're going to give you a call and say, hey, who do you know in this field or this, that? It doesn't really matter. But going out and consistently, I was taught from a young age to collect numbers, and it was called a Rolodex back in the day, and that was the term my dad used. It's like a little thing that you could flip that would just have like business cards in it all the time. We obviously don't have that. We have an improved version called an iPhone. But if you look at my phone, there's 2,500 contacts of people that I've just met in passing, and through that, I've built I'd like to think for my age, I built a pretty good connection web to a lot of people in a lot of different areas.
There's this idea of cashing in your lottery ticket and it's free. And when you meet a certain person, you don't know if they have an opportunity that is right for you. It could be they wanted to help with the business, or they just want a friend. Maybe you've got a lifelong friend there.
Absolutely.
And the idea of cashing that lottery ticket is you never know who you're going to meet, and it could change your life. And multiple times in my upbringing too, where you just had hired that friend, and then now that friend's been with you for a couple decades, right? Or you had gone and done this event, and through that event, you were inspired. You were inspired to start your own shoe business or your own creative endeavor. And do you fear meeting people at the start? Did you find it daunting? Because there is, when you present yourself to others, there is that chance of rejection. Because when you put yourself out there and you seem to have 2,500 contacts, I'm sure there's a lot of rejection stories there too.
Oh, for sure. Like,
so how has that worked out for you in terms of exposure therapy?
Yeah, well, exposure therapy is a good way to put it, because I mean, there's rejection in anything, right? For anybody that's ever done sales, you have to get used to rejection, because you're going to get, I don't know, every business has different numbers, but it's like not every person I call is going to want to buy. Not every person I call to sell a sponsor for our show is going to say yes. And it's either no, not right now, or get the hell away from me. Like, and everything in between.
My buddy Bryce, he just did door-to-door knocking.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this summer, and he's told me you're gonna get rejected 100 times, but it's that one person, that qualified buyer that eventually does bite. When you keep casting out, eventually you're gonna get someone to bite, and you reel them in. Yeah, but too many people.
Good fishing reference there too.
They give up at the 80th try. Right? Yeah, and when maybe the 81st could be your break. Maybe it's the 90th. Maybe it's the 1,000th, but you'll never know. And that's kind of what I've been implementing, right? Because you know that feeling of you've given your all, you've tried talking to all these people, you've brought out that business idea, and nothing just seems to be working. But then again, the next day, you're like, oh, it's gonna be a different day. But then it doesn't work out again.
Yeah.
And then again and again. Next thing you know, you're just numb to it.
Well, I relate that to, I call it, sales is like a deck of cards. Is that I know that in every deck there's 4 suits, there's 4 aces, 4 kings, 4 queens, 4 jacks, etc., all the way down. So if you're flipping your cards and you're getting 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s and 6s, you haven't got any aces yet. You know they're there. It's just a matter of time of putting in your reps. You're eventually going to flip an ace. You're going to flip a king. You're going to flip a queen. And eventually going to get to, I call it the higher side of the deck, which is where you're going to be getting your sales or good marketing partnerships or what it is. You can't deny that they're not there. You just have to dig through dirt to find gold, right?
I like that. I'm gonna start using that when things get tough. But yes, the aces are there, and it's all about reps.
Yeah, all about reps. And rejection's good for people. Like
a lot of guys, especially, man, can't stomach it, right? But it's one of those things where to succeed, you need to be able to get used to it. Because I found that every single person that I look up to, whether it be about content creation, whether it be athleticism, they go through life and they've experienced so much rejection, but they never let it turn off their fire. They never let it hold them back. Sure, it does affect them internally, but they saw it through the end. And kind of that's the advice I keep getting from the podcasting even.
Yeah, of course.
And it's to never stop.
Well, you're 100% right. It's if every single time we had a little bit of rejection or feelings got hurt, well, you think if I hear this story, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but the guy who invented Starbucks, he was declined like his first 80 meetings. Well, just think if he gave up after his 80th, and then the 81st, like you were saying, is like the when you get it. Well, we wouldn't have Starbucks now. Do you imagine? Or all these different businesses, like the setbacks in the Steve Jobs world or the Bill Gates world or Elon Musk's or whatnot. Anybody who's created something substantial, well, you'd think that the first time they pitch somebody, they're like, yep, this is the next $1 trillion company. Probably not.
Yeah. No, Mr. Beast talks about when he was in middle school, he was made fun of.
Yeah.
And he was, for the longest time, he was a loser.
Yeah.
He was just this crazy person that was obsessed with YouTube and nobody cared. Now he's the biggest YouTuber ever.
Yeah. Oh, I love Mr. Beast content. That guy's he's one of the YouTubers that I like because he does good stuff with his money. Like I saw that video where he went and built wells in Africa.
Dude, that was phenomenal.
Like that is unbelievable. You see those like cash giveaways in grocery stores. Whoever buys his chocolate bar or whatever it is.
You should listen to his podcast with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Where he's also on Lex Friedman too.
Yeah.
He talks about the endeavor of content creation, and he talks about being rejected time after time and experiencing this burden of not making it, but he still had that hope, and he never gave up, and he found it fun, and he would put in 12-hour days. And I think if you take that from a business perspective, he is very inspirational, bro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can you share an example where your network played a crucial role in advancing your career or a personal project?
Yeah, and it's everything, right? But like a specific one would be for this hunting show, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that people enjoy watching me hunt and fish. It's because Brett's on there and he has the name and the social media following. Again, like I said, I'm just right place, right time, and then took advantage of the opportunity that I had there and brought some value to it. But like and all the biggest shout out and kudos to Brett, because him and I are very, very close. We're first cousins, but with more of a brotherly relationship. We do a lot of business together outside the show and stuff like that. But it's even using him for that example, being able to use his name and his, I guess, public figure status to get us on the map. That was a big help. We'd have to work a lot harder to get viewership if we didn't have him on there. But in business, it's mentorship, right? We talked a little bit about this earlier. It's find somebody that's done what you want to do or has what you have and copy them. It's like, I mean, and I should like describe that. Don't plagiarize everything that they've done, but like they did this, it's working, do that. They're working in this market, do that. And a lot of these guys that are at the top and have found success, all they want to do is bring other people with them. When I was younger, I always thought that nobody shares their secrets in business. It's a closed book. Like I won, you didn't, I'm keeping it to myself. It's not like that at all. It's anybody who's done it and has found success definitely wants to share their story, definitely wants to see you win. So just align yourself with people in your associations or contact lists that have what you want.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
You know, I actually had that one queued up to say later, but you beat me to it. Nice job.
But it's often the people that want you to do well, they're the ones that are doing well.
Absolutely.
They're the ones that have gone, that know what it's like to try and then failed and try again. And I find they're usually the people that are most willing to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just by asking, that's all you can do to learn. And if you don't ask, you'll never know the answers.
Of course.
And you'll have to experience it yourself. And kind of going back to, you had read those books as an adolescent, the business books and about personal growth, and you see what worked for this author. They've actually put in all this time into this idea, and whether it be about their business or the things that worked for them that society could benefit from, you implement that. And what's even better is if you meet a person that is successful in person, they'll tell you firsthand what you need to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I resonate with that. How do you prioritize the quality of your contacts over the quantity? And what advice would you give to someone starting out?
I would say that quality is quantity and vice versa, because you can never have too many names in your phone, and it's because you never know. I mean, everybody has this magical plan that they're going to have in their life, and it never follows that. Like I was supposed to have $100 million in the bank by now, supposed to be retired. No, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you always think that you're going to be further ahead than what you are. Right. And you'll hit all your goals, but you'll hit them late. Like rarely ever do you set a goal for a certain day. You don't always hit it on that day, but again, keep going and you'll eventually get there. But quality is quantity, because you don't know where you're going to be. And people will come into your life at a different point in time, or you'll bump into this person once, have a conversation, and then 3 months later you'll see a post or something that they're looking to change careers, or they're looking to expand their brand, and then right away you can send a message to them, be like, hey, listen, if I were you, I was just talking to this person the other day who was actually looking for a content creator. And they're like, oh, well, that's great, because I'm looking to create content for somebody. So then I can introduce them in a group text. And then this happened just a couple of weeks ago with a good buddy of mine, introduced him to somebody that I know. Well, now he runs all of his social media accounts. But it's like, if I didn't get his number, or at least build a somewhat of a friendship when we sat down and had a conversation, I would have never been able to bridge those two together. So I guess quality is quantity.
Yeah. And in regards to taking that person and actually being friends with them, because sure, you can know all these people and they can just be acquaintances, right? But I'm talking about how maybe inviting that person for more personal endeavors too. Like maybe you guys hit the gym together, or you guys go fishing. How do you differentiate a person that is, okay, that's a person for business, and then that's a person that I'm going to get and add to my personal life?
So I'll ask you a question then.
Sure.
Don't you love when people answer questions with questions?
No, this is good. That's all right.
But can those two not overlap? Can your friends be involved in business? Can your business be involved in your friends? Can your business be involved in your personal life? My business technically could be a hunting show, but we take all of our younger cousins and nieces and nephews and family out. So there's a big overlap there. So do I differentiate? Yes and no. Certain people I meet right away will strike me as, well, like you're a very entrepreneurial minded, driven, passionate person. I'm like, you would probably fit better in the business world, maybe in my life, but I'll never cut them out and be like, no, we can't be friends. I guess, see where just be nice to people and ask good questions and get to know them and find out what they like, what they dislike, maybe find out what bothers them, and then be like, hey, listen, if it comes to that, obviously, but be like, hey, listen, maybe let's grab a beer. Let's grab a coffee. Let's talk about this. Let's go to the gym, or, hey, if you golf, I need a guy to go golfing with on Friday. And I guess you can kind of start going into a friendship that way.
Yeah. It depends which values they have too.
Of course.
Because for some people that I talk to, they drain my energy.
Yeah.
And for some, they give me energy. And I don't know whether maybe it's because the level of interest in there, I'm just not that interested into the topics that they're passionate about. But then, as you said, you could have that person is still beneficial to your livelihood because they're good at something.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it be about video editing, whether it be they're really good at a certain video game, or they're good at music, you could link them up. Maybe you're setting up an event, but then yes, it can overlap too, and you can make great friendships. And so many people miss out on the opportunity of great friendships by not opening themselves up to this person.
Mm-hmm.
That, hey, maybe it's at a friend's party, or it is a person at the gym, anywhere. It surprises me, man, just how many cool stories out there just from random everyday people, and they could be the most elite at pickleball or something. Yeah, dude, it's phenomenal what I've just by leveraging talking to people, and albeit it has to flow.
Of course, it has to be natural.
It has to be natural, because certainly there are times where you just force it and you kind of feel it, and I'm sure you're familiar with that from talking to all these people. So with the outdoor lifestyle and travel, how do you meet people there? Like, when you go about your fishing trips, do you just
yeah? I mean, I've been fortunate enough to hunt and fish and travel like all over the globe in different things. So when we go to like a place like Africa, say, it's hard to necessarily, because a lot of these fly-in fishing or hunting retreats are from people all over the world. So like when we were in Africa, there's a bunch of guys from the States there. There's a couple guys from Australia there. There's a couple of us from Canada. So are the odds we're going to meet these people again very, very high? No, but while you're there, you become buddies. A lot of the guides, though, and a lot of the outfitters that own these establishments for the hunting and fishing is make sure that you leave a good impression with them, so you're invited back. Or if you want to take another group in a couple more years down the road, you're invited back. But when we do local fishing and hunting, that's where we become. And I've actually found some like really good quality friends through that, because I imagine you, like as a runner, fitness, podcaster, you probably gravitate more so to people that you share mutual interests with, right? So for me, I love all those things too. But for us, it's like the passion is hunting and fishing. So we meet some guys on local lakes that are half an hour away from our place. We become friends with them, exchange numbers. Next time they're going out, they send us a text. Before I know it, we're all cleaning fish together at my dad's place. And then before I know it, I come up there a week later and they're having beers with my dad on the deck. And I'm like, oh, hey, you. Like, and then
you were in Africa?
Yeah, we did do Africa in 2022.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. How was that?
It's interesting. I mean, it's a real perspective shift. I'll tell you and I know this was a question that we'll get to later, but I had the most humbling experience of my life in Africa, where we woke up and it's like 48 degrees already at 10 o'clock in the morning.
48
degrees Celsius. It's hot. We were there in
As a
their
Canadian,
midsummer.
how was that?
I'm a winter guy. I love snowboarding, snowmobiling, ice fishing. So like this weather outside now, like 10, 12 degrees overcast, this is my happy place.
Yeah.
But like 48 degrees, that's outrageously hot. And all we do before we go hunting is I do the same thing. I go grab a stick of deodorant, I go grab 2 Gatorades and 2 waters, and that's like my backpack for the day.
It's the preparation. Hey.
Yeah. So we went in there and I
that.
brought like $500 Canadian cash, equivalent to what it was in Africa was like $200,000 or whatever it was. So it was all in hundreds. So like my cost of my Gatorade and whatever else probably added up to something around $8 Canadian. And all I had was the equivalent of like a $50 bill. But I didn't want to carry around all this change all day. So I'm just like, here, keep the tip. And I pointed them because there's a language barrier. I'm like, you two can split it. Well, both of the people working at the gas station, 2 ladies in their 40s or 50s, I would guess, came out and they were crying and they're like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then our guide there could speak South African. I obviously can't. And I'm like, what was that about? And he goes, your tip there, which is, keep in mind, it's the equivalent of $40 Canadian. So like $20 each. He goes, that will be more than they'll make in the next month of working.
That's insane.
And I'm like mind blown. And I'm like, that was $20. And I'm like, that's more than they make in a month. So like I got to see like real poverty. It was a very humbling experience.
I often hear that just being born in Canada, it's like you won the lottery already.
Oh yeah, you're already light years ahead.
Yeah, because there are people who would kill to be in our shoes.
100%.
It says they're praying for this right now. The luxury of having some time to just film a podcast.
Yeah,
to go hunting and to.
I catch myself complaining some days where I'm in a bad mood.
Me too, bro.
And I have to take a second and a breath, and I'm like, dude, it's not that bad.
I'm in a good place.
Way worse.
Yeah, I should be thankful. How has your passion for the outdoors shaped your approach to life and work, especially in balancing your roles as a financial broker and television host?
Yeah, balance is something I don't know if I'll ever truly get or understand. It's busy. Like a lot of times I feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends. But then again, we take a little like a rest and recharge and then kind of recuperate. But coming out of high school, I knew that there's the handful of options. So I decided to pick a career where I know I'd have control of my time. Where if I wanted to, as stupid as this sounds, but if I wanted to golf on Wednesday afternoon, I didn't want to have to ask a boss. Now, don't get me wrong, for the first years, and I'm still not quite out of that phase yet, I need to work because I'm trying to lay the foundation of a good sized business that my kids can take over one day. But balance is, to me, it's control of time. Where if we want to go on a trip or we have to film, like this month of November is going to be really busy. August, I was gone for like 26 out of 30 days, filming and hunting and fishing and stuff like that. Very, very grateful that I'm able to do that. But balance is when I'm doing a lot of stuff for the show, the financial business lags behind. When I'm doing a lot of stuff for finance, the show lags behind. So I can't really give both 50-50. It's more spurts of 100-100. And I don't know if you call that balance. I mean, I don't necessarily, but that's something I'm still working on.
Well, whatever makes you fulfilled, right? Because the show and it adds to your life, and also the finance side of things adds to your life, and you want a life where you can do what you love, and you love both of them, right? So really, you are living a life of abundance.
Yes.
And certainly you had mentioned earlier that there are days where you become in a resentful and you think that, oh, there's just so much to do, right? Certainly. But then you remember that, oh, this is something I'm a part of. This is something, a life that I'm trying to build towards. Or I always think of the golden years and how these are the golden years that we have right now. And certainly we'll look back 10 years later and go, whoa, I mean, I was thankful. I should have been more in the moment instead of just complaining about the things that I don't have. Because there's always something. There's always going to be something. And once you hit that point, you'll realize that you want something more. And once a problem is solved, then you want something that's even more, and then even more. Do you find that with the show and with the finance side of things? Is once you hit a new threshold, that hedonic treadmill of moving forward, it's like that's a new baseline.
100%. It's called, I call it entrepreneur brain. And again, I use that term very loosely because I'm not a self-proclaimed entrepreneur know-it-all, just a regular dude struggling through it. But I owe a lot of my credit to the associations I have and teaching me stuff like this. So it's when you hit your new baseline, you're like, oh, I'm happy. Let's celebrate for a day. But then it's like tomorrow, it's like, now what? Is this the end of the line? No, it's let's raise the bar higher. Let's raise the bar higher. So you're always chasing something, which is good and bad because I sit at night when the lights are off and I close my eyes and I'm trying to solve the problems that haven't even come up yet. So I got to really learn how to like.
I feel that, man.
Oh, dude.
It's like, oh, I'm already thinking about when I do get copyrighted in the show.
Yeah.
Right. What am I going to have a plan for that? That I haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Yeah. Like relax. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But I do the same thing. I'm trying to solve problems or like thinking about goals I'm trying to hit in the year 2030. And I'm like, we're not even in the same stratosphere as that yet. Like, stop stressing. It's like, I mean, anxiety is living in the future, depression in the past, and then you should be living in the present, which I try to, and I'm getting better at it, but I'm always the same as you. It's when the lights are off, it's you're thinking about stuff that hasn't happened yet. But that's a good thing too, though. 100%.
Yeah, there's an adaptive benefit towards that, because then you're thinking of errors and you're finding a solution before they even happen, but then it could take the degree of taking away your joy towards the endeavor. And that happens quite a lot to me, but I find focusing on my breath and reminding myself that I am living in abundance and I do have lots of friends and family, that goal that I'm trying to reach, it doesn't define me. Like, sure, you can try your best, and sure, if your goal is to make 100 grand, maybe 1 million, maybe you want to scale the business up to 10 million, or when it comes to content creation, maybe you want X amount of views and eventually you hit it. That doesn't define you.
No.
Right? It's the moments, the connections that we have. And sure, when it comes to business, it's great to have all these contacts and it's great to talk to all these people. But at the end of the day, these people, the connections that you make, that is the goal. That is the majority of any endeavor is the process. And there's beauty in that, and talking to all these people with different minds and attending all these meetings. There's so much freedom in that and so much opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Advin, just to piggyback a little bit on what you were saying there, a lot of the guys that I take mentorship from, always they consistently remind me and say, enjoy where you are now, because once it's built and life is all supposed to be sunshine and rainbows, he goes, more money and means more problems or different problems. But he goes, at the point that you are right now, where you're just building and starting up, they're like, embrace that and enjoy it, even though it sucks and it's hard. There's lots more rejection. Go enjoy it, because once it's gone, it doesn't come back. And even like you right now, like you're coming up on episode 100, close to.
Yeah. This is episode 92, 93.
So there you go. You're coming to 100. Imagine when you're sitting in a recording studio as big as the Amazon headquarters on episode 2193, and you're like, man, I remember the days when we were sitting at that in the first studio doing it. It's like, appreciate it, because once it's gone, it doesn't come back.
I remember episode 1, I was struggling with. It took me hours to do 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was cringy. I doubted myself. I took 5-minute breaks every 20 minutes because it was too much for me. I just couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
It seemed that my mind was going everywhere. Now I'm more comfortable with my speech and I can actually engage with people and add to the conversation with value. But then again, when I think back to that moment, I wasn't necessarily happier per se. It was just my baseline was there. Maybe I was happier back then. You know what I mean? This podcast, it makes me fulfilled, and sure, it adds to my life, but it doesn't define who I am. I'm still trying to find answers, right?
Yeah.
I still don't even know myself really, but it's just in conversating with people and then in living every day with hope and gratitude and agency that I can find myself. But going off of what you had said with your mentors as well, that enjoy the moments right now, because one day when you are successful, but successful, because really that could mean many things in your objective, once you reach the objectives that you sought out for, you're going to look back onto moments like today, be like, oh wow, I was so young 10 years ago. But then the problems are still going to be there. It's just going to be new problems. And I always think about how, remember a time maybe last year when you had catastrophized a problem, and that's all you could think about is just repeating in your head, and you go to bed and it's just weighing on your soul. But then now you don't even think about it.
Exactly. Right.
I always think about that. I'm like, why did I let that affect me so much? You got over it.
Yeah.
But that's just how it goes, in that constant reminder. How, or can you share a memorable hunting, fishing, or travel experience that had a significant impact on your perspective?
Yeah, I guess this was kind of the one we were talking about earlier when we were in Africa. But I've gotten to, we were just in South America two months ago, I guess in August, or late August. So it's kind of the similar thing is that I think travel is good for people, is you get to go see different parts of the world and different places in these parts of the world that you didn't even know existed. Like I Googled where we were going in South America, and like, it looks so beautiful. It's so this, and it is. But then when you're driving on your way there, you see the third worldness to some of these countries, and it's a perspective change. You drive in the area of Sherwood Park that we're in. It's beautiful houses everywhere. It's nicely cut grass, beautiful signs. There's golf courses. There's grocery stores. There's cell service everywhere. Right. Then you go to some of these places, like you are in the middle of nowhere, and there's nothing. And every time we go out hunting, it's a perspective thing. Maybe when I don't know if I'm trying to phrase this correctly, but like humans are the highest in the food chain, and the circle of life is constantly goes as predator eats prey, etc. But when we go out and hunt, it's not, we're shooting an animal and we just leave it in the creek. It's, we go and we take the meat off of it, and that's our survival for the next 8 months. Right. That's what people don't understand is hunters are so evil. They kill innocent animals. They do this. I'm like, well, that innocent animal did have a purpose. It's no better than somebody going and buying a chicken breast from the store or a steak from Save On Foods.
Albeit it's probably more humane hunting.
Oh,
because
for sure.
Locked up in all the slaughterhouses, man. Yeah. And those just inhumane kind of ways of going about getting the meat.
Yeah, I saw that once. I was at a pig slaughterhouse, and that was an interesting change of mind frame to be like, oh, so that's where that comes from, and that's how it looks. And I'm like, well, if I have a picture of a white-tailed deer from when it's a fawn and it grows and grows and grows and grows, then it doesn't breed anymore. It's now an old, mature buck, and I shoot it with a rifle or sling an arrow at it, and it dies instantly. Like, it's a little bit more humane. At least I know where the meat comes from, right?
Yeah. Versus a cow that is kept in captivity its entire life in an enclosure that barely fits the cow, and grown up all the way until they're full size and then slaughtered.
It's horrible. To be frank with you, it is.
But you guys, how does that procedure work once you guys, I've never gone hunting, so, and I always see pictures of some of my friends hunt, and it looks so Fascinating. How does that procedure work after you guys find your prey? Would that be the correct term?
We call it a target animal.
Target animal. Okay. So then does that take an entire day? Does that take a week?
Well, the longest hunt that I've been on in the same spot was 18 days.
18 days.
18 days sitting in a hunting blind in minus 30 up in northern Saskatchewan with a little pop-up buddy heater, like just shivering all day long, just because you don't go out and shoot the first animal you see. You don't shoot a young buck that has 4 or 5 years of breeding 20 to 30 does a year, because that's how your population gets messed up.
Yeah.
Right? You shoot the old buck that's the whitetail life expectancy somewhere between 10 to 15 years old, depending on where they are. Well, you're after that 11, 12, 13-year-old buck that's already done his breeding. He's already fulfilled his job of reproduction. He's older, he's a little smaller, but you know that you're not ruining the gene pool either, because bucks with big antlers will pass on those genes for the next generation of deer and whatnot. And I want my kids to hunt at the farm, right? So if I shoot all the big deer in the first couple of years, there's no crop of deer left. So that's another aspect of conservation that people don't understand, is you don't just walk up and shoot the first thing you see. But if I know for a fact they're not eating steroids, I know they're free range, obviously they're a deer. And then you come and you shoot it. We gut it in the field. We could call it field dressing, where we take out the organs and whatnot. But like, this is crazy. I'm not a crazy person, but there's a lot of health in eating liver. So like, we take the liver and we cook it up. We take all the meat on the body from A all the way through Z.
Bro, speaking of liver, man, that's actually very popular when it comes to Filipino culture. We love liver.
Nice.
Yeah, I like the taste of it.
You ever had raw liver?
Raw?
Yeah. Like the Liver King? You ever seen that guy? He's like, looks like a barbarian.
Eat it, but no, is that good for you?
Well, I'm not the guy who shoots an animal and eats its liver and testicles raw right off the body like he does. So like, I wouldn't know. I have tried a little bit of raw liver or raw heart. It doesn't taste good. It tastes like shit. You have to gag it down.
Cook that. Yeah.
But we do a lot of hunting with indigenous guides. Up when, like, my dad was just on an elk hunt 2 weeks ago and shot a great mature bull. But one of his guides was indigenous, and what they do out of respect for the animals is once they're killed, they put some grass in its mouth, and then you actually take a bite out of the heart, like warm out of the body.
Have you done that?
I have not. No, but my dad just did it, and he's sitting there. He's like, this is kind of weird, but like for them, it was a respect thing. So he's like, I'll do it. No problem. And you can see in the video that he's like biting and it's like chewing on Hubba Bubba. It's so chewy. Gets it down and he goes, okay, I did that once. Don't have to do it again. But
was that part of the show?
It is. Yeah, it will be. It won't air until next year, but yeah.
I got to start watching this show.
All of our stuff's on YouTube. We just put another 5 or 6 episodes up earlier this week from our last year. You can watch it on there.
Dude, that's awesome. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. And every episode I got different facial hair because we hunt in November. So I had a big handlebar mustache that went down and around. And then then we did a couple of highlight reels and videos when the Oilers were in the playoffs. So I had a big bushy beard, and I did the Cassian chops later on. So I look like a different human in every single one, but it makes for people to laugh a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah. The heart though. Oh man. I can't even imagine. I feel like I just throw up, but I got to pay respects.
Yeah. I mean, we don't do that typically when it's just us. Yeah. But if we're out with indigenous guides, they want
you gotta respect other people's cultures, right?
Absolutely.
And if it's not endangering you, might as well get
endangered my stomach though. Just watching it, I started to get a little gaggy. But
how do you integrate conservation and responsible outdoor practices into your adventures, both personally and through your show?
Yeah, so I guess we'll switch a little bit of gears now. We talked about the hunting side of things, but going to the fishing, it's everybody you see takes a picture with the biggest fish, but that fish is back in the water in under 30 seconds because you don't keep the big mama with all the eggs who's going to reproduce. Because again, you want to keep that good gene pool in there. If we caught all the big ones, no fish would get big because they'd all be small, bad genetics. So you catch the big ones, first thing you do, okay, picture, and it goes back in the water. We were up at Cree Lake Lodge 2 or 3 weeks ago, like a world-class fishery on Cree Lake, which is northern Saskatchewan. And there was one of the guys in our group caught a big 50-inch pike, which is like just over 4 feet. It's like a big fish. And it was super stressed out. You could tell the breathing was off. The gills were starting to bleed a little bit. So instead of taking it out for a picture, it could have died. So we're like, hey, like, this is a great fish. Take a picture while it's in the water, but we're letting it go right now. We're not taking it out of the water. It's like some people fly across the world to go fishing there, and all they want to do is take a picture with a monster fish, but the fish's health takes priority. So if it's stressed out, it's not coming out of the water. It's getting let go, and it's going to go down underneath and just calm down. So that's kind of what it means to conserve, is always putting the animal first. I know that to some people that might sound hypocritical, because yes, we do hunt them and yes, we do eat them.
Well, you select the ones that
it's selective.
Do not harm the future population.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, I want my kids to hunt, and I want my grandkids to hunt, and I want to be able to take my buddies as first time hunters. I took my good buddy Jordan Tachek. I'm taking another good buddy Cole this year. First time hunters, because everybody knows how expensive it is to buy steak and whatnot at the store. I'm like, well, if you do your hunter ed course for $150, you come out to the farm, we get all the guns and ammo you need, shoot a deer, get your hands dirty, at least learn the process. And then we'll cut it and wrap it in our meat packing plant. And then we'll send you home with a cooler full of meat. Now you don't have to buy meat for the whole year. Right.
That's amazing.
So it's cheaper.
How long does the meat last you?
It depends. I shot a moose in 2022 and I still have about 40 pounds left, but it was 483 pounds of meat off the bone, like cut and wrapped and packaged, 483 pounds.
How does it taste?
Similar.
Yeah. Similar to what you get from Superstore or?
Yeah. I mean, it's wild game. So you do have to marinate it a little bit. I'm a big, when it comes to steak, I marinate it in clamato juice and like soy sauce and stuff like that. Some people swear they can taste the difference, and I'm sure a lot of people can, but like if you give me like 3 days to cut it right, marinate it right, and then cook it on a Traeger, if I blindfolded you, you'd have a hard time telling the difference.
Yeah. So I'm sure your culinary skills have also been sharpened.
I'm not a chef. I'm a grill guy, but I can do like rice and toast as the carbs. I'm kidding. But no, I'm the grill guy. I can barbecue.
I had this chef on the podcast months ago, and he said that with meat, it's all about timing.
100%.
And that rarely is it about the sauce. Sure, it is a factor, but when you want to produce a good tasting meat, first you need to get a good source from it, and then you need to time it right. When it comes to kind of the texture of it, so you got to make sure that the heating and the timing, because it's going to be different for every single slab of meat.
Well, I'm sure most people would agree there's only one way to eat a steak, and that's medium rare. So once I'm just kidding. It's a lot of people disagree. I like my steak pretty rare and a little bit red.
My one buddy, he likes it blue.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the cow's still mooing on his plate.
Yeah, no.
When he's eating it.
No, the cow's still running away.
Well, I got a Traeger now that I just stick a little meat probe, and then it hooks up to my phone. So then I set the Traeger, like on my way home from work. I mean, I'll take the cover off earlier, and then I'll just like start it up from my phone when I'm leaving the office, and I'll go home. It'll be heated. I'll put my meat in there, just put that probe in, and then my phone will just beat me when it's at the perfect medium rare temperature. Take it off, do a sear, and it's hard to mess it up if you like, again, like you said, timing. If you take it off at the right time, it's pretty good. You
place this, is it like a metal thermometer?
Yeah.
And then it's connected to an app on your phone?
It's connected to the Traeger smoker, which is Bluetooth to my phone.
Oh, dope. No. Yeah. Is that expensive?
Ours we was a sponsor for the show, but it's just like a barbecue. Like you can buy the big ones that are super expensive. I just got a little tailgater that's no wider than this, a little bit wider than the chair. Just small, because I live by myself, and I don't need to cook for 40 people. But like at my parents' place, they have people over all the time. So my dad has it's called the Ironwood 680 or something, which is like 1.5 times the size of a big barbecue. So you can go as big or smaller, spend as much money or as little amount of money as you want.
That's dope, man. And also going back to hunting, I heard that if you shoot an animal and it keeps running, the meat is gonna taste differently rather than shooting the animal and it dying, because there's all that stress hormones that gets released up until it dies. When it keeps running and running, the longer the animal stays alive, just the tougher the meat gets. Is that true?
Not really. No, not from my experience. What you don't want to do is, so animals' vitals are always right behind their front shoulder. So you want to shoot it somewhere, we call it the boiler room, which is like heart, lung. So it's quick, easy, like a very no stress death, if that makes sense. And a lot of the times the animal, if you make a good shot, they're not knowing they're being hunted, right? You're far enough away, or if you're shooting bow, you're stalking, you have good wind. And so you shoot, the animal's dead right away. So there's no time for those stress hormones to release. However, if you shoot it too far back and you gut shot a deer, all that gut acid leaks into the bloodstream, and that's what will make your meat taste bad.
Okay.
So it's all about making an ethical shot. Don't shoot from too far away. Make sure your wind's right. Make sure you're gonna make a quick, clean kill.
So avoid the guts.
Avoid the guts, avoid them like crazy.
So what if you do end up shooting the guts?
Accidents happen, but then you want to try to get a second bullet in there as quick as you can.
Yeah. Or else is it just gonna tarnish all the meats? Is it gonna be to a point where you can't eat it?
It won't ruin it. You can still eat it, but it tastes different. It doesn't taste as good. It's hard to explain the taste actually, but it's just not as good.
Do you guys have to wear hearing protection at all times, eh? Because those guns are what, 140 decibels, 150?
I don't know. Like there's been a couple times where I haven't, right, when we were just practice shooting, and like I got my ears rung a couple of times. Nothing to be permanent damage, but yeah, we always have these headphones called walkers that they're just like this, like a big like over the ear
big
headset.
muffs.
Yeah. But they amplify anything lower than 30 decibels. So if we're talking like from here to your, like down the road, and we're like yelling back and forth and we can barely hear each other, it'll amplify that. But anything over like that 70, 80 decibel range, it'll cut it right down. So like the rifle's almost silent, but if we're talking, it'll amplify it. It's I don't know how the technology works.
Yeah,
but it's really cool.
I have these like loop earplugs that kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you're having a conversation with someone, you can still hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to loud banging noise or when you're at a concert, it diminishes the decibel.
Yeah. And like, how does that work? Like, that's just something so small.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
There's somebody a hell of a lot smarter than me that keeps coming up with these ideas. I always wanted to be an inventor, but every good idea that's out there is already invented. And then I have an idea, and then sure shit, it's there in a month. Somebody else
ideas, man. That's how I feel about quotes. Like I'll have a quote in mind about like planting a seed about it's like friendship and how every single friendship that you plant, it may not necessarily grow. Then you search it up and it's been taken already.
Of course.
But no, I can tell the business side of things has really sharpened how you convey yourself and the way you present a story, and even then sharing what it's like to hunt. I feel like the show's probably helped a lot with that. Hey.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. That's a nice compliment.
Yeah. Because certainly a lot of people, when there's a camera or there's a mic, when it's long form content, a lot of people underestimate it.
Yeah.
They're not used to these long talks. But after, how long does the filming take for you guys?
Well, in all honesty, like we'll just take our last trip to Argentina. We had 29 hours of footage that has to be condensed into 4 28-minute episodes.
Yeah.
So like 29 hours to 2 hours, basically.
Yeah. It's a lot of cuts.
And we hire editors to do that because I would drive myself insane trying to do that. Like I can't imagine what it's like even doing the podcast.
Yeah. No, it's pretty simple. I just have kind of I usually pause for a drink of water or like to change the battery, and then I kind of just connect all of them.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair.
Like the bits.
But thanks for saying that earlier about the speech and whatnot, because I wasn't always like this. And if I believe that for a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while, they're like, wow, you've changed. Things are different. And it's, well, yeah, we're supposed to. I'm not supposed to be the same person I was 4 years ago or 4 years and even 4 years in the future. I'm not supposed to be the same as I am now as I would be in 2028, right? So it's personal growth is a thing of beauty. If somebody can wrap their head around personal growth, and I can see that you do it. So you're a big, I can imagine your feed is filled with a lot more positive and inspirational stuff than the typical person just by the way you act.
I got some, was that big, Gary V?
Gary V. I love Gary V. Yeah.
The Huberman.
Yeah.
It seems that you can tell what type of person's algorithm is like.
Oh yeah.
You can just tell by talking to them, whether it be about motivation or if they get cat videos. I can just tell your feed is more hunting mixed in with business, mixed in with personal growth, with the books.
Yeah, and a lot of Edmonton Oilers content. But you can also go and change your algorithm really quickly. Just go on and like 25 pictures of stuff you want it to change it to. Sure shit, a day later, it's gonna like adjust to what you're feeling at that time.
Or if you don't want to see a particular thing, you put not interested.
Yeah.
Because certainly I used to be a big meme guy.
Yeah.
Like it was funny and you'd share that to your friends, but I just found it was brain rot.
Oh,
it was
dude.
it wasn't enhancing my speech. It wasn't making me a better person. Sure, it probably provided catharsis when it came to a bad day, but it was a short-term tactic.
Mm-hmm.
And in the long term, it was costing me learning, time with family, time with myself to reflect.
Oh, it's called the long-term podcast, not the short-term. Everything's got to be geared long-term, right?
But what's the biggest lesson you've learned when it comes to hunting?
Gratitude. Be grateful that I have the opportunity to go out and spend some quality time with my parents, my cousins, my aunties, uncles, grandparents, great uncles, friends. And it's like, we're so often distracted by these cell phones and technology and like just scrolling. I do it. You might do it. Like I just catch myself like just wasting time scrolling through nonsense. Right. And it's like, when you don't have cell service, it's a thing of beauty because you can't do that. You're forced to be present. You're forced to, like, we bring a crib board everywhere we go. I got
what board?
A crib board. Cribbage, like the card game where you're pegging.
Oh yeah? I've never played. But
I'm a crib addict.
Yeah, professional.
I don't know if I'd say professional, but I'll tell you what, Brett Kiss is a professional, and I've paid for his mortgage a handful of times when we start playing for money late at night. And but he usually lets me have a couple of drinks, and then he'll start throwing some money around, and then my ego gets inflated a little bit when I'm with him, and then he'll take all my money. But I got one in my vehicle. I got one in every bag I travel with. I got one in my office. We have one in every room of the house.
It's that good, eh?
Oh, it's like many times in a week, we'll just sit down and be like, "Hey, we got 20 minutes. Let's play a game of crib."
Yeah.
But back to the being outside and hunting, the biggest lesson is how to disconnect from what our busy city lives are and get to a quiet space, right? When you're sitting in a blind in the bush waiting for an animal to come out, it's almost therapeutic in a sense, because if you're not talking, there is no sound. Like you can hear your heartbeat just about. And like, how often, if you were to really think, when was the last time that you had like pure silence, where there wasn't a train going off or a car horn or an alarm clock or a like never, right? So it's a good thing for me to get inside my own thoughts a little bit and kind of reflect on what's going good, what's going bad in life right now, how to adjust, and kind of use that as my self-therapy time, if that makes sense.
That's why I love running.
Yeah.
And I meditate a bunch, is you're confronted with the reality of life, whether you weren't paying attention to your health or that dilemma with your mom that you always thought that it was her fault, but then upon further reflection, you realize that you are the problem.
Yeah, that happens so much to me.
Yeah. And when you're in that silence, when you're actually picking away at your brain, you realize that, oh, at that certain point, I don't need to be unhappy. I didn't need to be that angry. And you had talked about gratitude, and there's all these things that arise, and the connections that you cultivate when you are hunting with your family, and there's no screens. You're miles away from the nearest gas station, and you're just there, and you don't even have to talk. Hey, you're just there suffering, but then it's so worth it in the end, because 18 days was the most you guys.
Yeah, 18 days from like 5 a.m. till 7 p.m. every day.
Oh, wow. And then that just builds so much mentally, spiritually, and it teaches you patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My grandpa always says, he goes, practice patience. The worst part about those 18 days, the buck that we were after didn't even end up coming out. So I left empty handed after all that time.
18 days.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, how did it feel after the 18 days and finally?
I felt horrible. I was crying myself to sleep. I still have nightmares over that deer.
Yeah.
And then the worst part is the following season, he actually got bigger.
Okay.
And our neighbor sent me a picture, be like, hey, look what we got. And I'm like, you dirty dog. I almost had claim to that deer. I was chasing him for so long, but that's how it goes.
The neighbors got it?
Yeah.
Oh,
like 2 quarter sections over the following year.
Oh, jeez.
And they're like, you want to come over? And I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way. I got to see him. And I'm like, hey, congratulations. Like, it's all timing, and I'm not going to be mad at him. It's the free roam deer, right? It's not like I tagged it and had its location 24/7.
Yeah, called dibs.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that in the hunting world. People don't like that.
Yeah.
But
do you run into other hunters while you're hunting?
Yeah, from time to time. Usually with the people in the group that we're with, will be like, hey, we're going into this area at this time, so like don't come through there to spook anything. But there's a lot of road weekend warriors, I call them, that when we're sitting in our blind or in our spot, and don't get me wrong, we always are looking when we're on the road to our spot. But there's guys that just drive around and around and around and around in their truck. And that works kind of 2 ways. Is if there's deer in where you're hunting, they're going to stay because they're not going to be running around if there's vehicles all around. But if they're not in there, they're also not going to run in. So you're 50-50 if you're going to have a good day or a bad day if there's a bunch of people around.
Yeah. And if you're driving around, it's scaring game because they hear the slightest noise and they're running off to somewhere quieter. Do you go duck hunting?
Yeah.
Much?
Lots. Yeah.
The shotgun?
Yeah.
I know my buddy just went for the first time last year and he had like 4 in each hand.
Should ask him how his shoulder felt afterwards.
What's that?
Should ask him how his shoulder felt afterwards, because usually with duck hunting or goose hunting, any waterfowl really, you're sometimes sitting in coffin blinds. So you're laying down, you wake up and your first shot's here, your second shot's here, and your third shot's right in your bicep, and then you'll be bruised if you're shooting lots of rounds that day.
Yeah. Man, it's I got to take up hunting one of these days. It sounds so fun.
Open invite to you 100% of anytime you want, fishing or hunting.
Yeah, you're the guy. Hey, you're the Sherwood Park hunter.
Well, you know what? We'll go and I'll ask my dad where the fish are and where the deer are, and then he'll take us. But at least we get to tag along.
Dude, that's awesome. It's probably brought you so many memories and deepened your relationships with all your friends and family. Because when you're out there in -30 and it's quiet and you guys have selected the game and it's been days since it's been last seen, and then you finally see it and then you pull the trigger and it goes down. Is there a celebration?
Yeah,
it comes up.
It's happiness for sure.
Yeah, you guys are just
Yeah, it depends on how hard or how easy the hunt is, because I mean it's rewarding. Spending 18 days in the bush, if I were to finally get him on the 18th day, it's a rewarding feeling. It's like I actually put in my time here. We did all the right stuff. Had him on camera, tracked his habits, tracked his routines, where he travels. Like we have a lot of intel on the deer, but sometimes they just don't come out.
Yeah. So let's talk about how the good and the bad events can cultivate self-growth. Can you describe a challenging experience in your life or career that ended up being a catalyst for growth? Yeah,
it's rejection. Is making sales calls, and your buddy you were saying who's going door to door. It's you get your kicked in the knees every single time you get a no. Sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're easier, but you can't let that get to your head. So it's like an event would be having agents quit on our team in our base shop, or having a client that you're just about to get and then they back out last second, and you've already done paperwork and done all the prep, and it's like, hey, I'm on my way. They're like, no, we're not doing it. You don't have to come over today. Oh shit. Well, there's a lot of a big opportunity that might be missed in there, but it's more so on that person than being like, you know what? Like it's just not right now. The timing's not right. So for me, I've tried to adopt the mindset of no means not right now, where it's, if I have something that I can truly offer somebody that will help them retire sooner, put my money in their bank account, better rate of returns, or send their kids to school, stuff like that, like overall improve their quality of life. And it doesn't cost them anything to do it. It's like, no means not right now, because either there was something that I did wrong, that I didn't explain something properly, or they didn't understand. But it's everybody comes around. So when you say what it is to what cultivates the good from the bad, I'm a firm believer that with every call it backstep, or every rejection, or every failure, there's an equal or greater blessing on the other side. So if I have a 3 out of 10 negative, well, there's for sure a 3 out of 10 or more positive coming at me now. That's kind of the law of opposites.
And you don't fully encapsulate the good without the bad.
Of course.
Because if you never know what it's like to be a person who hasn't been rejected and everything's been linear and it's always been an upward trajectory, then you don't know what it's like to feel those negative emotions of doubt, of not feeling that it's going your way. And it's important to learn the bad because it just adds so much more to the good. And if life was perfect, what would be the point? And if there was no death and there was no rejection and we were all kumbaya, then it wouldn't be heroic going and cold calling or approaching that person, because the threat, that risk doesn't exist, right? If you were to go hunting and you got game every single time, then that threat of not getting the game and feeling the shame of going back empty-handed, it wouldn't, then hunting wouldn't be hunting. You know?
Exactly. It'd be shooting, right?
Yeah, it'd just be like, I'm thankful for the bad and the good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, rejection is such an important, imperative tool for a person's ability to grow and to learn. Because even throughout this year, I just remember being so on top of the world. Even on Sunday, I think I just felt so at peace.
Yeah.
But then today I wrote my midterm and I felt depleted. Before you came here, I wasn't having it. And I just remember that time I felt like I was on top of the world. I thought that it wouldn't change. Mm-hmm. And then the times where I've been there, I thought it wouldn't change. But then I realized that, they're not permanent. Mm-hmm. And it's good to revel in the moment and realize that that's just a part of life.
Well, it's like celebrate the small wins, right? And small wins can be anything, like getting up on your first alarm, because we all know how much we love the first snooze button, right? It's go to the gym when you said you're going to the gym, make those calls when you said you're going to make those calls, do your editing for the podcast and you just don't feel like doing the editing. That's the small win. And like take a minute, soak it in and be like, yep, I'm sticking to what I said I was going to do. That builds self-confidence in turn. Builds belief and whatnot. But I don't know, I'm a big believer. Celebrate the small wins. Like don't make one sale and book yourself a 14-day all-inclusive trip to Mexico to celebrate it. But like do something small. Like we call it the carrot theory. I've seen a video of a guy who's riding a mule and he has a carrot on a stick and this donkey's constantly walking, trying to bite this carrot. But now the donkey will go forever. So give yourself a carrot, find something to chase. And then once you hit it, give yourself a little bit of a reward. Yeah.
Once you get to the destination, eat the carrot.
Yeah. And then just get a bigger carrot to chase once you're there.
Yeah. I find that it's just, we set these goals and once we hit them, I find a lot of people don't give themselves the leeway and the freedom to feel that victory of that triumph. And they see that as just being normal because they've done it so many times. Like if you like for the show, once it's released, once you guys have put in all that time to hunt, it's just normal. But prior to that, the first episode, it was this entire big, the debut, the pilot episode, and you watch the first episode and it's just, wow, this is so novel. This is something that I've never done before. But then now you're on what episode?
Oh yeah, season 4 is airing right now. So
we how many episodes 10 in each? 10 episodes in each?
Yeah, 10 every season.
That just becomes normal.
Mm-hmm.
You forget that, every single episode is something that adds to my life. And I once felt that this was the biggest thing. And you forget where you come from.
Yeah.
That's everyone. Yeah, what did it feel like, the first episode?
Well, a lot of work went into that one because now that we have our routine set up, that one we didn't. So like we are all scrambling and have no idea what we're doing. Luckily, it turned out okay. We've gotten better at it since. But once that one was done and it was aired and it was actually received well, it was like the monkey's off the back. And it's like, now we know we can do this. But like the whole time leading up, it's like, is this going to work? Is this the right idea? Should we even do this? Like, what am I doing filming a TV show? I know nothing about TV and production. But like, how much do you know about anything before you start? Like, how much do you know about hosting a podcast before you start it? Yeah. Right. And I guess even to like, here, I'll put you back on the spot a little bit, is what was, when the first episode came out, was that a big sense of relief for you of like, it's done, it's successful, it's out there, and now it's up to everybody else?
Yeah, I was very proud of it. I mean, I didn't really think anybody would listen, but then some of my friends messaged me and they provided words of encouragement.
Yeah.
And they told me to keep going. And so I kept going, and eventually I released another one the week after, and then another one the week after. And then I decided, a guest would be cool. And next thing you know, kind of that snowball effect. And now I look back and I've acquired all these skills and knowledge and how to talk to people and how to edit and which software. Now it's just normal to me. And I don't think anything of it. But if I were to compare myself from the 9 months ago when it was the first episode versus now, I had learned so much. And throughout that time, episode 30 or episode 60, there's been so many times I'd wanted to give up because, bro, reaching out and having people cancel and having people say no, even getting hate a little bit, putting myself out there and cringing at my own words and why would I say that, and catastrophizing kind of, why would I, that is that going to get me canceled, or is this is out forever? This is my words. There's episode 93. There's hours of just me talking. Who knows what they'll find? I'll just let something slip.
I'm so nervous to hear this because I can't stand my voice on the sound of recording.
Yeah.
But I've been canceled before. It didn't work. Everybody bounces back. But here's what I'll say about you getting a little bit of hate. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was like. I don't know who it's from. But you'll never get criticism or like negative criticism from somebody doing more than you. You'll only get it from people doing less.
You're right. I've heard that many times, and it's the most successful people that want you to do well.
Yeah. You only get negativity from those that are behind.
What about you guys? You guys get hate at all for the show?
Oh, dude.
There's some vegans.
Well, I mean, and again, I respect everybody's opinion and belief system when it comes to politics, whether you're left or you're right, whether it comes to life, if you're a hunter, if you're not a hunter, when it comes to sports, like I can't stand the Vancouver Canucks, but I got buddies that are Vancouver Canucks fans. I don't love them any less. We just chirp each other when the Oilers and the Canucks play in the playoffs. Yeah. It's like, I'm a completely even keel person. You do you, man. Respect your opinion. This is mine. Take it or leave it, sort of thing. Like we can be friends and not think the same way. However, again, I wasn't always like that. I've learned to be more moderate and be more thoughtful of how other people think and how I'm not right 24/7. I'm actually wrong more so than when I'm right. But yeah, it's a couple of hunts that we went on that I posted pictures online, and people that were, I guess, uneducated on the subject of how conservation works or what this animal is like. I got like 8,500 death threats on one post that I made, which we'll talk a little bit about it off air. But because I don't want to bring up any or stir any pots that have been settled already. But a lot of people I find speak out on things that they don't know how they work, which is something that I used to do quite frequently. So I can understand where they're coming from, and I still hold space for those people, but just a little bit less.
Yeah. When you put yourself out there, when you've got your own show, and even coming on the podcast, right, presenting your ideas, talking about you, and then still continually to introduce yourself to all these people, building up your contact list and sharpening your mind and continuously putting yourself out there. On top of all that, you're gonna run into people that just don't like you for whatever reason. You could be the most giving, most compassionate, loving person in the world. Somebody's gonna have a problem with you. That's
it's
what
weird
I've learned.
How that works too. Like
I don't get that. Like for me, I'm just so understanding. Maybe that's a result of my upbringing. And I will recognize there are days where I am judgmental, but then in the back of my head, I know that it is not a healthy mind at play.
Yeah. But now that you know that shows that you're growing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like I'd be walking around, if somebody's blocking my way and I get frustrated, I know that this is a result of maybe it's a lack of sleep, maybe lack of peace in my mind, and it has more something to do with me rather than the person blocking my way, because it's 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Why is it affecting me? Why am I disgruntled?
Yeah, like traffic. Somebody cuts you off.
Yeah.
Like I used to be like, oh, like F this guy. But now I'm like, whatever. You're not in a rush right now. Or even if you are, you put yourself in this rush. You didn't leave your house soon enough.
You're the reason why you're in that position.
Exactly. Personal responsibility.
I think, Jocko Willink?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The book of extreme ownership.
I've read that book. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It's just taking that idea and applying that to all your life is freeing, because, hey, it's not their fault anymore.
No.
It's never their fault. It's your fault. If you get rejected, it's your fault. Maybe you didn't do it in a nicer way. Maybe your tactic wasn't optimal. When you're late for work, oh, sure, there was traffic. You could have left earlier.
Exactly.
Even a car crash. Maybe it was a drunk driver, and that person should be prosecuted and they should face the charges for undergoing that, and they should take accountability. But if you're in it, maybe you should have expected it, and you might have. There's a way to prevent that. And that's worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But like taking extreme ownership for even things where it doesn't seem like it's your fault at all, I think it's freeing. Yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, I've always been taught that you can only control three things. It's your 3 A's: your attitude, your activity, and your associations. Everything outside of that is out of your control. So if you stress about things that are out of your control, you're never really going to find peace or quietness. But if you just work on those three things and realize that who I spend time with, how I feel, like what my attitude is or what I portray, and the activity that I do, that's really the only things that I can keep in my small circle of control. Everything else is external circumstance.
Yeah, and you can't change other people's minds.
Yeah.
You can't control people. It's just impossible. Maybe you can have an influence, but it's never going to go to how you expect the interactions to go.
100%.
Yeah. How do you mentally approach setbacks, and what strategies do you use to turn adversity into opportunity?
Every setback to me is an opportunity for growth. It's not a setback forever. It's an opportunity for somebody to reflect on, hey, this is what went wrong, this is what went right. And this actually works for positive things too, where you have a big leap forward in business or a big leap forward in podcasting or whatever it may be, and like sit and reflect. So I approach the setbacks and the big steps forward the same, where it's take a minute to sit down, get into like a reflection mood, I guess. And I'm a big fan of writing things on a piece of paper, like journaling. No, not journaling, but like putting my thoughts on paper, which I guess maybe that is journaling. But that way, if my thoughts are on the piece of paper, I'm on top of them. I'm not inside them, because there's a whole bunch of moving parts and different thoughts going on in your brain 24/7. If I can actually put it on a piece of paper, I'm now on top of it. I'm looking at it objectively, and I find I can solve it better that way rather than just trying to convince myself that to do it in my head, if that makes sense. I might be a crazy person for doing that, but that's what works for me. And I don't know, if I don't do that, then I'll get pretty flustered.
Yeah. I've heard that talking to people about their failures is more important than talking to people about their successes, because when you do succeed, you can't really pinpoint it at a certain point in time. But when you experience failure, you're catastrophizing it in your head and you're looking for all the possible reasons as to why you failed. When a person triumphs, they kind of just forget what happened and they just focus on the victory and celebrate. But then when a person fails, it's a lot more formative.
Yeah.
Because they go through, if it's academic, I could have studied more. Was it the sleep? Was it the diet? Or if it's about lifting, was it the form? Was it this? And there's all these people that try to correct for that, and eventually they do find the reason. If they're not the type to give up, and if they're the type to persevere, versus a person that just is naturally good at a certain thing, they'll just tell you the form and how to do that, and then they never really had to fail. So I think failure is formative. It's not final, and that's one of the biggest lessons to take away from, and we shouldn't fear it at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anytime I fail, I find that I'm looking for ways on how I can do it better next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you don't, then like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
So if you can, like you were saying, pinpoint what went wrong, then, and that's what people should never be afraid to ask for help or opinions. Like, I think criticism is good if it's coming from an honest place where somebody wants you to get better. I'm not talking about somebody chirping you because you started a podcast and they don't think it's cool or whatever. That's not good. But like if you reach out to somebody who's done a podcast before and be like, hey, like I have some honest questions, listen to this episode, give me some feedback. If they give you some feedback that might hurt your feelings a little bit, that's a good thing, right? Because it's opening you up to a different light or a different avenue that maybe you haven't looked at. But in that same sense, I don't necessarily like to take business advice from people that haven't built a business. I don't like to take hunting advice from people that don't hunt. So you have to be careful I have to be careful on when and who I take constructive criticism for. So there's a lot of people that I know who are like, you should do this and this and this. I'm like, well, you haven't done any of that. So like, how do you know if that works or if it doesn't?
Yeah. Do you know Hormozy? I'm sure you know Hormozy.
Yeah, Anthony Hormozy.
I gotta read you this thing that he said. The stack of undeniable proof is just, you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah, when you ask a person about their business, if it's a successful business,
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask them, you take that advice. But if you get advice from someone who has failed all their businesses, sure, like I said maybe failure is a good thing and you could learn a lot from it, but there needs to at least be some positive outcomes.
Yeah.
And maybe they are still too young and maybe still too early, but there needs to be proof as to what you're saying is right. I know I said earlier that failure does teach us a lot and maybe you could learn from more failures, but when it comes to mentorship, there needs to be some avenues where they did succeed.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, bro, I love Hormozy.
Oh, he's good content. My favorite guy for content is Andy Frisella. I know you and I were talking about that last week.
Andy Frisella, yeah.
I don't know if you went and heard his podcast. He has a podcast called the MF CEO. He's a podcast called Real AF, and I like him because he's like straight to the point. Obviously, if you don't like F words, don't listen to him. But because he's very direct, very honest. But that's the kind of coaching that I like. Is like, don't beat around the bush. If I'm doing something good, tell it to me. If I'm doing something bad, tell it to me, right? Like, be right, be on my ass, and like keep me in check.
I really like Mark Manson. He's the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
He's got another one too. I think he's a second book, or somebody else has a similar book to him. But I did the audiobook of that one. That's the orange cover book, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, he's got a podcast too, and I just. At first, I didn't really like the swearing. So I'm like, oh, it took away from the vocab, the lexicon, and it made a person's. And that's hypocritical too, because I swore a lot, and I was trying not to swear. So the more I listened to him and all that swearing, I'm like, oh God, fuck this, all that. But then I realized that there's a way to insert that. Yeah. And it shouldn't affect my cognition and the way I go about speaking to people. Just because someone else swears doesn't mean there's no value in what they have to say, or doesn't mean I have to swear.
Yeah.
You going back to accountability, there's extreme ownership, and
well, it's got to match your brand too. Like David Goggins, if he didn't swear, I don't know if he'd be David Goggins.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's his brand. It's who he is. It's like,
have you read his book?
I've read both of them,
bro. It was just insane. Hey, I haven't read. I listened to the audiobook for both, and he had this podcast type of flow in Audible.
Yeah.
Did you read it or did you listen to it?
I read both of them, like paper copy.
Okay. Yeah. So in Can't Hurt Me, he between every single chapter, he gets interviewed. Oh. And so there's like he talks about the chapter and how fucked up his life was and how he managed to overcome all that. But yeah, man, there's just beauty in the struggle. He makes suffering sound so
amazing and so perfect, and you crave it.
But then you need to really think about it. Do I really want an abusive father and kids bullying me?
Just so I can get my knees replaced 10 times over and run 100-mile races?
The knees of an 80-year-old at the age of 40 and having surgery on it, but still staying hard.
He's a psychopath, man, right? Like, not many people are bred like that. I like to try to take one thing from every book that I read and implement it, because you read 300 pages, but you're only going to remember or actively put into use 10 or 20 of them, right? Like, I can't recall what every chapter is in Can't Hurt Me, or the second one never finished. But he did something in there in the Can't Hurt Me book called Your Oath to Self. I don't know if you remember him talking about that on the Audible, but it's something you write down. It's like, I am this, I am that, here's what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. And I have it laminated and I have it stuck in my shower at home, so I can't not read it.
I have look at that. You'll never forget.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I'm a crazy person. I got my goals and my business plans and like vision boards all laminated in my shower and in a goal binder I carry around. But like, and people make fun of me for it. I'm like, I would too if I didn't understand it. But like, success leaves clues, and every successful person that I know in my field and in a bunch of different industries, they're goal motivated and goal driven people. So I'm like, I have to become one of those if I want to have what you have. Right.
I respect that, man. I mean, at such a young age, you've already acquired all these lessons and have been through a lot of different scenarios and have learned so much about hunting and human nature and philosophy. And there's so much content out there. Hey? And,
thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And what you said about you're never going to remember all of the book, but you take away little pieces, little nuggets in it, right? Like the oath to self and having that laminated. I'm sure that's when you forget in the days where it is tough. You read that and you're reminded of why you started in the first place, because we all get jaded. Hey, we start something and it could be a workout plan. It could be education. Maybe just your first year in school, skip forward to third year, and then it's just too much, and then you forget why you
drifting
started.
away from your plan that you set, right?
Yeah.
When I read my goals, it brings me back. It's
like, who am I? What am I? What did I seek out to do? And what is my oath to self?
Yeah.
What role do you believe self-reflection and learning from both success and failure play in personal development?
Well, personal development is the number one thing, the number one credit that I would give to what I have today and what I hope I will have and what I'm striving towards down the road. Like I said, I started reading personal growth and development books when I was like 13, 14 years old. And it started as kind of a unique story I'm probably going to do to my kids one day. Is my dad put an unsigned $50 check in the back of a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Yeah. As the first personal growth book I read. I was probably 14 years old. And at that point, I'm like, $50, like that could buy me a new pedal and a gold chain on my BMX bike. Or like, how many Slurpees could that buy a kid, right? Just like totally different monetary value on stuff like that. So what the deal was is if I read the book with a highlighter and I wrote my dad a report on it after it was done, he would sign that $50 and I'd get a $50 check. Well, for me at that time, I thought it was just a way to make money almost, like as I'm doing a paper route or whatever, an extra $50 here and there. But what I didn't realize is my dad was in my very impressionable years developing the habit of reading for me, and it stuck because I still read 10 pages a day, almost come hell or high water to this day. And I mean, that's a book a month. It's been 10 years, right? That's 120 different books that I've read since I was 14 years old on personal growth and development, which have played a big factor into maybe the way I talk or the way I do business or the way that I sell or the way that I make friendships or the way that I build associations. But like all of it goes back to that personal growth and development. So I don't know if that's the answer you were hoping for or what I wrote down, but looking back and reflecting on it is every piece of information or any skill you want to learn is inside of a book somewhere because somebody's mastered that skill and told their story. Read it, highlight it, read it again, and read it a third time. And then the odds are some of it will stick.
To fully know someone, read their book. And if they're a successful entrepreneur, if they're an athlete that has won a gold medal, when you read their book, you see their insights, like why they do the things that they do. And when you absorb all these books, you realize that you've taken a piece of every single book and you've implemented some of them.
Yeah.
Like on days where I just want to give up, I think of David Goggins. What would he do?
Yeah, he wouldn't give up.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He wouldn't give up. He's just,
if he's mad, he'll just go run 200 miles.
He'll look in the mirror and he'll cuss at himself. He's recorded himself reading the haters in the comments and runs to it.
That's crazy to me.
I think that's crazy.
But I can obviously tell, like I don't know if you were born this way, but you're obviously a very good speaker, and that fits because you host a podcast. But you obviously put a lot of time into personal growth and getting better and fine tuning some of your skills, because it's pretty apparent just sitting down. And obviously, I didn't meet you until today, but now sitting here for the last hour or so, or 45 minutes, however long it's been, it's incredible, really. So
yeah,
good on you.
Thank you. I resonate with pretty much everything you've said. I think
that's not typical. So thank you.
With the self-development world and how we go from point A of this person that wants something greater than themselves, whether it be about you talked about financial freedom and being able to go on vacation if you really wanted to and not being held back by money,
mm-hmm.
and having all these tools, gratitude, accountability. And there's the Rich Dad Poor Dad of
that's another great book. Yeah.
which I just assumed you've read, Assets and Liabilities. Even I'm sure if you can tell what a person's like just based on the content that they consume.
That's right.
And when I hear people and they tell me they haven't read a book ever other than in language arts in high school,
that's crazy to me.
It reflects on how they present themselves and the words that come out of their mouths and the virtues that are indirectly talked about. Because the people that have gone and written all these classics, like the phenomenal books of how to think and grow rich and how to win friends and influence people, Atomic Habits. Yeah, you've read
James
Atomic
Clear,
Habits. Yeah. They've gone through all these failures and the catastrophes that have come, and they experience that existential crisis in their lives that how do I fit in society? And eventually they found it. They found their drive and they found what they're good at. And that's something I've just been wanting to access every single day. The moment I feel like I found something, it's like, oh, I haven't perfected it, or I need to do better.
Yeah.
And how do you, when you go about personal growth, there's this problem too where there's just too many. Like you have all these
That's
ideas.
true.
Okay, when it comes to Jocko Willink and David Goggins, the idea of full accountability and the things that you say you can't hurt you and your mind is the biggest tool. Then there's kind of there's the habit books of Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg, and then Atomic Habits by James Clear. How do you know which one to follow?
I think you have to find what voice or what person speaks to you, or like who you resonate with the most. Because like you said, your mind's your biggest tool, but so is everybody else's. So 150 different people have the 150 different books that relay the same message. Just find somebody that you like to hear from, or that resonates most with you, or is most relatable, or anything like that. And that's who I would follow when it comes to that stuff. So for me, like my big three, I love Robert Kiyosaki for the money books, like Rich Dad Poor Dad or Cash Flow Quadrant. I love Andy Frisella for like the raw calling me a loser when I'm not at my full potential. Like that's all I hear is my alarm goes off. I look at the snooze button. I'm like, what would Andy Frisella do? No, he'd grab his phone, smash it, call it a bitch, and go for a 5-kilometer ruck with a 100-pound weight vest. I'm like, hey, I'm not that extreme, but those are the guys that I've kind of picked to listen. And also, like, think of it as your vehicle is a university on wheels. Right? Like audiobooks, podcasts. I mean, don't get me wrong. I listen to Spittin' Chicklets, the hockey podcast, every episode that comes out. But after that's done, it's personal growth time. It's not, for me, it's not sing the same song I've heard a million times while I'm driving. It's like, how can I fill my brain up with something a little bit positive that I can learn from in the 15 minutes that I drive to and from work every day? Right? And everybody's like, that's crazy. How do you not listen to music when the windows are down? I do. I just pick my spots. Right? And it scares me when people haven't, you were saying earlier, people haven't read a book since high school. Well, that's the definition of peaking in high school. Because if you're not growing, you've already essentially taken in all the information that you're going to, and from a teacher-student setting while you're in high school. Well, you're 18 years old. You got another 50 years of opportunity to learn and grow and acquire new skills and stuff like that. And you're right. If somebody tells me I haven't read a book since high school, I don't think any less of them, but what that does do is tell me that you're not necessarily into personal growth. So I imagine you might be feeling a little bit of stagnation in your life, a little bit of stuck. Frustration, right? Like in the same loop, whatever you want to call it. But I'm like, read a book. Because any book.
Everybody goes through the same mental afflictions that we all go through, of self-doubt, the rejection, guilt, shame. And if you don't have the tools through those books, it doesn't even have to be nonfiction. It could be like a lot of these people in the fictional characters, and I don't read a lot of nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't read a lot of fiction, and when I do, there's still the characters in the story giving that same lesson of gratitude, of compassion, of understanding each other, the empathy. And it's just the way you present yourself and the way you can condense information to how you want it is a way of conveying to others how you truly feel.
Yeah.
And I think Naval, I just wrote it down actually. Naval Ravikant has this quote of intelligence, and he says that the only true test of intelligence is if you get what you want out of life. And there's all these,
I like that.
There's all these information out there. Okay, you could listen to Andrew Tate and his life. He wants just wealth and Bugattis, and that's kind of, and maybe that shows confidence, and that maybe that's your entire feed. Or you could go with kind of the Buddhist mentality of life is suffering, or maybe you think that getting likes on Instagram, that's the highest value because you're a person that is a lot more superficial. Maybe you just don't know the deeper meaning. And there's so much information out there. There's maybe you want to build your status up, and to do that, you want as many friends and as many people around you at all times. But you'll never actually know everything unless you read a book about it, or unless you live it for yourself. And it's about that trial and error. And if you don't actively engage in that endeavor, you'll never truly know what it's like. Does that make sense?
100%.
Like there's so many avenues that you could follow through, and it's kind of extracting what doesn't help you and leaving the things that do help you internally. I think that's kind of what really drives me to keep improving and keep learning. And as you said earlier about the stagnation that you feel, I've been that person at many times throughout my life.
Me too.
And I just don't want to live like that.
It's not as fun or rewarding, right? No. And I mean, like, even to kind of wrap up before I head out of here, I know we've definitely gone over time for what we kind of expected.
Yeah,
but,
sorry, you're a busy man.
No, I just don't want to give you too much editing.
Yeah.
But we kind of started off talking a lot about the power of associations and building a web and stuff like that. If you're not doing consistent personal growth, you're not going to find yourself around people like-minded, because I believe that like attracts like. And if I'm not constantly almost obsessed with personal growth and getting better and improving, I'm not going to be able to leave as good of an impression on people as I would if I was the same person that I was 4 years ago, or 4 years before that, or 4 years before that. So as you grow, so do your associations. And as your associations grow, well, man, if your associations are growing with you, or they're bringing you along as they're growing, your whole level of life changes. Your whole level of existence gets better, right? It's not all monetary. It's about wealth is not monetary to me. Wealth is you're healthy. You're wealthy in your health. You're wealthy with your family relationships. You're wealthy with your friends. You're wealthy with your business associates and stuff like that. So a couple of guys that I work with, Jarek and Sean, they were working with my dad really close for 20, 30 years. And, or I guess my dad's been there for 20, 30 years, but I grew up with those guys as like buddies. And then now we all work together, and just to see what they were like when they were 20, now that they're 30 or 35, they've grown, their associations have grown. And with that, they've brought me around with them. But if I didn't personally grow, there's not a chance in hell they would have asked me to spend some time with them. So I guess I think personal growth is the ultimate the ultimate thing for somebody to understand, or at least wrap their head around.
Thank you. Yeah, I just enjoy talking to you so much, man. We went
We're coming up on 2 hours just about.
Yeah, it's an hour and 45.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, dude, I enjoy talking to you, bro. I think you're gonna go to great places. I think
Thank you.
with this mindset that you have, still so young and already equipped with so many phenomenal habits, good tools, surrounded by good people, and yeah, I gotta check out this show. I'm convinced. Yeah,
you can't. But dude, thank you. I was so nervous to come on here, and
were you?
A little bit. I'm not a big podcast. I listen to them, but I'm not. I don't go on them, right? So, but I love this stuff. Like podcasting, so cool. The guests you have, I've known, just looking and scrolling through and listening to a handful of the interviews. I've probably known 5, 10, 15 people that you had on here. Enjoyed their interviews, sent them a couple of the messages after they did. I'm like, that's wicked. Congratulations. But I think that you're going to do some pretty cool shit too. So
thank you, Matthew. Yeah. And as always, to everyone listening and watching, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope, strengthen your faith, and keep it long term. Matthew, Germain, everyone.
Thank you.